Hello everyone and welcome back to Baron's Den as we continue looking at the starting rosters for each of the factions or teams in Blood Bowl Season 3, and I thought we'd tackle the Dwarf starting rosters next. Now, I'm not going to be using this video to comment any more about the state of Dwarves. There's still a lot of obviously very... there's a very divisive opinion about what's happened to Dwarves. Lots of people are upset about how they've changed and others are just writing them off as a team. That's not what this video is about. This video is just about what can we do with the Dwarves in the state that they're in, regardless of how we feel about where they're at. So that's all we're going to do. So let's get into the Dwarf starting rosters. Okay, so we're going to start with out-of-the-box rosters. That means what sort of team can you build if you just bought a box of Dwarfs? So let's have a look. The first one, roster A I've got for you, is more of a classic build, I think. As in, this is what I used to run a lot on Blood Bowl 2. And a little bit in Blood Bowl 3 as a starting point. I seem to always remember running 6-2-2 and then only the one Troll Slayer. But I think I had enough for 3 rerolls, so I don't know if that's what's changed in this edition with the increased cost of the blitzers, maybe. I'm not sure, but I kind of felt like I could afford 3 rerolls. But yeah, that's what we've got for 995. I think this is the most consistent start. You need your Dwarf runners for their ability to pick up the ball and move around. The Dwarf blitzers, I think, are going to be better than people are giving them credit for. I think their diving tackle combo will make them very annoying players to play against. The Troll Slayer is going to be able to punch holes through defences and is crucial. And then, of course, you've got enough for your 6 linemen. So that is the roster I would probably start with out of the box. But we also have... What happens if you wanted to vary that up a bit and perhaps you don't like the look of the new Dwarf Blitzers and you wanted 2 Troll Slayers instead? Well, that would be available for 5k less than the last one. And it's perfectly doable. You've got the models in the box. It still comes out with 2 rerolls and you get a bit of everything. Just with 1 Blitzer instead of 1 Troll Slayer. So that's roster B. I prefer the other one. I think my experience with frenzy players is you want to make sure that you've got a good solid team around them before you got 2 of them on the pitch. That's the necro in me talking. But of course, Troll Slayers do come with block, unlike the werewolves. So they're already definitely further along the line of progression than a werewolf is by having that block. So managing 2 isn't necessarily that hard. But they are a bit more vulnerable with their armour. So it's just worth thinking about. And then we got roster C. What happens if you wanted all of your positionals? Basically, the strongest looking team in terms of on the pitch players would be 5 Dwarf Linemen, 2 Runners, 2 Blitzers, 2 Troll Slayers. You can do it, but you can only fit 1 reroll in then. And it does give you 40k left to spend. I don't think this one's as good because I think the rerolls cost double after, once you've started the league. So I think I'd rather just collect the rerolls now and worry about saving up for the extra player later on down the line. But this is an option there if you do want a bit of everything to begin with. So I think that's it for the out-of-box rosters. There's not a lot you can do because of the cost and because of what you get in the box. It's a variation of that. But what happens if you've got multiple boxes? So you can look at Dwarf Linemen and their big guy. So this is, my remit with this roster is, can I build a 3 reroll list? And this is the best I could do. There are variations on this, but I pretty much had to run, because the linemen aren't much cheaper than your positionals. I'm having to run 2 positionals and then 9 Dwarf Linemen. There is some variance with this because you've got 10k left over, so you could downgrade the Dwarf Blitzer to a Troll Slayer and run 2 Troll Slayers instead. What else could you do? That's about it, really, I think. You could have 2 runners, I suppose, and that'd save you 30k. You might be able to upgrade another lineman then to another additional... In fact, you can do that now. So you could have 2 Dwarf runners, a Blitzer, and 8 linemen. That's another option. But basically, rerolls are... A 3 reroll option isn't really, I think, viable to begin with. I think you'll be looking to add that reroll on later now. Right, what happens if you wanted the Death Roller in the starting lineup? So this is me just building it around the Death Roller. So I've not even got a bribe in place here because obviously it's a league roster. So this is just a Death Roller, a Troll Slayer, a Blitzer, a Runner, 7 linemen, which takes me up to 11 players as well. So there isn't even a bench. And 1 reroll, and that's 995. So I think this does prove that the Death Roller is going to be something you see later in leagues, and not at the start, because they're just too expensive. And obviously, with this player getting sent off, and you're not going to have any bribes, you're going to be down to 10 men, and you're missing a lot of positionals. So I just can't see it myself. Although, if you're going for that sort of a build, maybe you're going for a real dirty secret weapon kind of build, and you're going to just run a load of Dwarf linemen and a Death Roller. That's absolutely cool. People should not be worried about doing more thematic lists. And if you love the Death Roller, then absolutely go for it. Just from a competitive point of view, I can't see the Death Roller being in many league rosters to begin with. But I do see the value in them later on in league or in a ladder situation, particularly as other teams have ballooned in team value. With them having so much block on their team, they might be able to still keep their costs relatively low. Of course, guard being a secondary for the Dwarf lineman now, we'll see. Some people trying to stick guard on them still and see their TV shoot up, but I don't know. I don't think we've. I think we might see a little bit more of the Death Roller in this edition. Okay, on to tournament rosters then. So again, I haven't actually ever taken Dwarfs to a tournament. Played them quite a bit, obviously, in things like leagues and Blood Bowl 2 and 3, but never to an actual tournament. So I was just looking at the list, thinking what I would like to do, not necessarily what other people would do. And so I thought, well, what I'd want is I think the Death Roller is just too expensive. So I'd want every positional, go for an extra man, see if I can fit a bribe in, and see what I can do with that. So I have managed to go 6 Dwarf linemen, 2 runners, 2 blitzers, 2 slayers, a bribe, because they're only 50k because of the what they're called, the special rule which allows them half price bribes, bribery and corruption. But because I can only fit 2 rerolls, I've decided I'd want leader, honor, thrower. And I've got a smattering of mighty blow and guard. This is mighty blow and tackle, obviously depending on the 4 elite skills rule, because obviously and there's, I've just realised there's block there, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's mighty blow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So actually, if you are going for 4 elite skills, this wouldn't work anyway. You'd have to change one of the others. But this is built around, I'm going to a tournament where dwarfs are tier 3. And so they will get 1,150,000. And they will get 7 skills and 1 secondary. And there's no elite skill. There's no rule saying that you can only have 4 in total. I think it's 4 of each. So actually, this would be a legal roster at this tournament, as far as I'm aware. But obviously, in Games Workshop's tiers, they are still tier 1. And so any tournament trying to adhere to that, or any Games Workshop tournament, you wouldn't be able to do this. So, very quickly, I've got Dirty Player here and a bribe to make the most of a bit of a fouling game. I've got 3 guard players to help this complete strength 3 team to get stuck in. I've got leader to give me 3 rerolls. I've got a bit of mighty blow on a tackle player, and here I'd go either mighty blow or tackle depending on the elite skill situation and who I felt like I was going to be playing. So I do think this would give you lots of options. It is going to be a slow team, so I think it would be you'd wear your opposition down until you could move that ball down slowly and go for like a 1-0 or a 2-1. However, the playing against other bash teams is where we don't know where dwarfs lie yet with their defensive and a bit of guard. Is that going to be enough to get involved with these orc and chaos and undead teams, or is it going to suffer? We'll have to find that out. But I've got a tier 1 variant here, which basically, if I only had 1.1 million and 6 skills, this is probably what I'd do. I'd just get rid of the bribe, and I'd also get rid of the dirty player because I thought, well, I'm not going to lean into the fouling game then. And I've still got spare man, and I've got rid of the secondary as well and gone for 6 primaries. And of course, tackle would come in here if there was a 4 maximum elite skills rule. So that's just a variant on what I do. But we've also got a death roller build here, so this was fun. So you could have a death roller, a troll slayer, 2 blitzers, 2 runners. So basically you're swapping out, you're losing a dwarf lineman as part of your bench, and you upgrade, well, I don't know if it is an upgrade, you are changing a troll slayer into a death roller, and you're dropping a reroll. But you are getting 2 bribes to try and keep that death roller on. And I've given it the secondary. I've gone back to the, I don't think you're getting it into a competitive 1.1 build. But again, this would be legal at the tournament I'm going to, because 1,150,000. And I can use the secondary, so I'll put block on the death roller. Because you could go for sneaky git or something like that to help it fouling, but it's already going to get sent off as it is. I don't need to be throwing away the bribes even quicker. So I think I'd give it block and focus it on blitzing and blocking. And then the rest of them are similar to what we've done before. I think I've got a tackle lineman in there because I had a spare skill. And I've got the leader to give me 2 rerolls. So it's a bit weak because of the rerolls, and you've lost a troll slayer, but you have got a death roller that, might hang around for an entire half, potentially, or even a half and a few turns. So I wouldn't go for this, but it is an option. And I'm sure there's going to be people who try and work out how to get even more bribes in and will want to give the death roller a taste of tournament action. Okay, so I thought we'd look at some star player builds towards the end. So to get Grim Ironjaw in, I've had to drop to a reroll, single reroll, but I've still got a leader player on there, so that would be 2. And this is 5 linemen, 2 runners, 2 blitzers, 2 slayers. Now, I'm going with, at the moment, the old rule that you couldn't have a star player as part of your initial 11 players. If you can, obviously, you can save a bit of money that way by having Grim Ironjaw replace perhaps a Troll Slayer or a lineman, and then that will give you some more cash that you could perhaps put into rerolls. But that's not a bad-looking team that also contains Grim. It's just the rerolls that hurts, but everything else looks pretty good, doesn't it? And then the variations on this, depending who you go for. So Joe Bugman's cheaper by 10k. So you've got a little bit more flex to work with should you decide to drop. If you are allowed to drop a player and go for just 10 rostered players and a star player, then you can up your rerolls. And then you've got Grom Brindle, who's even cheaper. But again, it's the same situation, really. Now, this isn't me advising you take any of those players. I've never been a fan of the Dwarf Star players. I've never really used... Grom Brindle used to be better, I think, in the last edition. I don't like the way they've changed his special rule, that it's only once per half or per drive or something like that. Not as good as it used to be, anyway. So I don't think I'd be using any of the Dwarf Star players, but they're there as options if people feel like they want to give them a go. Then I thought, well, let's have a look at Helmut Wulf, because I haven't put him in any builds yet, but he is any team. And obviously, because they get cheap bribes, you can actually get your every positional and 5 linemen, plus Helmut Wulf, a bribe and a reroll for 150. And, if you get leader in there, you still get 2 rerolls. And I thought, it's interesting. I'm not sure I'd do it. I tend to find chainsaw players are too unreliable. But every now and then you're going to have a great game with this team. A wall of dwarf linemen, and then Helmut steps out every now and then and just cuts somebody down, and then a few more players rally round him. The 2 guard players, perhaps, to make it hard for people to take him out. It could be fun, but also unreliable. He could chainsaw himself off in the first turn, and that's part of the problem. Pro helps, but it's not a given. And we've got Barrick. Now, Barrick's different because he's so cheap. I've been able to have the bribe in here as well. And it stays under 1.1. So you could even take this in a like a tier 1 situation as well. You can check out what I think about Barrick Farblast, but I wouldn't bother with him personally in a tournament build anyway. So, but it's an option should people want to. And of course, we've got to look at the Grack and Crumbleberry build because, you know, with their special ability potentially still up in the air at the moment, people waiting to see if there is going to be any more clarification on him. But you can get him in. It's one reroll only, and you're missing out on something else. Look, that's it. I've taken out both blitzers in order to accommodate him because he's expensive. But it would give you 13 players. Yeah, and could be fun. Could be fun. Okay, so that's it. I still think there's lots of things you can do with the dwarves, and until we start seeing them at tournaments, I don't quite know perhaps which direction to take them in. But what I do know is that there's definitely some fun things you can do, but also there's some competitive things that you can do with them. It's just they're not going to play in the way that they used to. Well, that's it from me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Bye for now.